welcome to another Children of YAH Teaching. If you are new to this, Children of YAH is a Bible teaching series for children where I'll be posting videos on YouTube teaching about the Most High Yah and His Word, the true Word. If you listened to our last teaching, you know that it was on making room for Yah. Episode 15 is titled, Yah Doesn't Change. It is better to obey than to sacrifice. Let's get started with today's lesson. So let me start by asking you a question. How many times have you asked your parents to get you something, but they say no? And then you come back a couple hours later and ask again, and they still say no. You keep trying, but it's the same result every time, because you think that maybe they'll change their minds if you keep asking enough times. Here's an example. Let's just say that you want a cookie, so you ask your mom if you can have one. She says you can if you ask your dad, and he says yes. There are two decisions to make. One, you go and eat the cookie without asking your dad, or two, you go and ask your dad if you can have a cookie, and he says yes. Like Yah, sometimes our parents say things and their decisions don't change. The first choice was going to eat the cookie without asking your dad. She didn't just say yes, you can have one. She said you can if you ask your dad and he says yes. You clearly only heard the part where she said yes and not the whole thing. Then mom finds out that you didn't ask dad and you get in trouble. The other choice was asking dad if you could have one. By going to ask dad if you could have a cookie and he says yes, you go and eat the cookie. And you feel good about yourself, knowing that you obeyed your mother's decision. Here's another example. Remember the story of Adam and Eve? Yah said that they could have any fruit from any tree except from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The serpent tricked Eve into thinking, did Yah really say you can't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Yes, he did. Yah never changed his decision. So why am I telling you examples before the lesson? These will lead up to what we'll be talking about today. Open up your Bibles to Numbers 22. There are certain verses in this story that I'll read because there's something to remember. In this chapter, Balaam was asked by messengers of Zippor to come and curse Israel. Balaam didn't know if to do it or not, so he asked Yah for what he should do. In verse 12, Yah said, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. Yah said not to go with them. Verse 16 and 17. And they came to Balaam and said to him, so says Balak, the son of Zippor. Please let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will honor you with very much riches, and will do anything you say. So please come, curse this people for me. Balak was trying to bribe Balaam to go with them. Verse 18. Balaam said, and Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, if Balak will give to me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot do anything small or great to go beyond the mouth of Yah, my Almighty One. Balaam knew he would be breaking Yah's decision if he went with them, especially if he took bribes. Verse 20. And Yah came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise up, go with them, and say only the thing that I speak to you. That you shall do. Yah said to go with them if the men come to call you. Watch very carefully to what Balaam does. Verse 21. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the princes of Moab. And the anger of Yah glowed because he went. And the messenger of Yah set himself in the road as an enemy against him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and two of his servants with him. You see that? Balaam didn't even wait for the men to call him. He just rose up and left. Yah was testing Balaam to see if he was going to obey him. Balaam only heard when Yah said, rise up and go with them. This is what happens when you don't listen. It's just Adam and Eve all over again, because Satan told Eve, did Yah really say not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Yah never changed his mind. When he said something, he meant it, and he won't change. Just like when your parents tell you to do something, their decision doesn't change. So we'll end the show off with a video clip, and we'll be right back.
It doesn't matter how smart you are, you don't know everything. Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I have a hard time following instructions. You know, I don't always want to do things exactly the way I'm told to do them, and sometimes I don't even like to look at the instructions at all. Like, you know, if I get some Legos or something, I like to build what's on the box, but I try to build it without looking at the instructions, see if I can do it, you know, kind of like a puzzle or something. Or if, you know, pretty much anything, I try to not follow the instructions if I can. You know, if the teacher says you got to do this, I do that thing. But if I can get away with it, I usually try to do things my own way. And that might work out sometimes, but it is definitely a better idea to follow the instructions. And man, if we're talking about instructions from God, yeah, you should follow that every single time. But yeah, there was this one time where my friend, he was going to have this gigantic, epic water fight. So he invited all the kids from all over the neighborhood, and we were going to have this giant, big party, and everybody was supposed to bring their water guns. And his mom sent out a list to all of the families, of things that they were supposed to bring, stuff that we were supposed to bring to this big old water fight. And, I kind of looked at the list, and the list said, bring all these things, but I was like, I don't really need to bring all those things, right? And so, yeah, like the water gun, I brought my water gun, and I brought my swim trunks and everything like that, but on the list was goggles. And I was like, I don't really need goggles because, it's just a water fight. We're just going to be squirting each other with these water guns. And if the water gets in your eyes, it's not that big a deal. And I knew they were going to have a slip and slide and stuff too. And I was like, I'll just close my eyes on the slip and slide. So we get to this party and, oh man, it was so much fun. We were, squirting each other and we were going on this big old slip and slide. And he had this, this like inflatable pool thing that he brought out. And it was this big, fun party this summer. And it was so much fun. But one of the things that they did at this party, at this big old water fight, was they got a whole bunch of cans of shaving cream, right? And so it was a big old shaving cream fight too. So it's the water guns and the shaving cream. It's this huge big mess, and it was super fun. And so I'm running around with the water gun, and I'm spraying my friends, and they're spraying me, and we get the shaving cream, and we're splattering it on each other, and everything was really fun and really fine until one of my friends, he snuck up behind me, and he yells, "Sneak attack!" And he goes, "Poof," and splatters my face with a big old blob of shaving cream, and it got right up in my face and in my ungoggled eyes. I'm a pretty good sport. If somebody gets me with a shaving cream, it's all in good fun. But the second that shaving cream touched my eyes, I was just like, "Ah!" Oh, because it hurt so bad. My eyes were burning. It felt like my eyes were on fire. And so I'm like running around and I can't see because they burn so bad. And I'm trying to, get this stuff off of my face. And I'm running around and I can kind of just barely see. And I finally go and I find the pool. And I just take my head and I go, dunk, 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 dunk down into the water. And my eyes were like so red and they hurt so bad, and everybody was just like staring at me because everybody's having fun, but then all of a sudden I'm just screaming like a crazy person. And in the instructions for the party they said bring goggles, but I didn't realize that we were going to have a shaving cream fight, or I didn't also realize that shaving cream hurts your eyes so bad. If I had known that, I definitely would have brought the goggles. But that's kind of beyond the point, right? They knew that shaving cream burns your eyes, and they said, bring goggles. And so instead of just trying to do my own thing, trying to go my own way, I should have trusted them. They told me to bring goggles because they knew what would happen. So I should have obeyed. I should have followed those instructions. And I feel like that happens with us and God all the time. God gives us these instructions, and we're like, yeah, I'll follow the instructions that make sense to me. But if I don't totally get the whole reason for following the instructions, I'm not going to follow them. That's a bad idea. Because God sees stuff that we don't. God sees the much bigger picture. And so if he tells you to do something, you should do it. Don't just pick and choose the stuff that makes sense to you. If God says do it, do it. If God says don't do it, don't do it. Because God sees the bigger picture. God knows everything that's going on. And so if he gives instructions, it's from the perspective of someone who knows everything. And our parents and our teachers, they're not God, but they also have a bigger perspective than we do. If our parents tell us to do something, we should do it. Because they've got a bigger perspective. They know more than we do, like it or not. And so that's my challenge to you guys today, is that you would follow the instructions, that you would obey God and your parents and your teachers and really anybody who gives you instructions, that you would follow those instructions. Because even if you're super smart or super clever or whatever, you still don't know everything. And when people give us instructions, especially when God gives us instructions, it's not for us to pick and choose which ones we like and which ones we don't like, which ones we think are important, which ones we think aren't important. It's our job to obey. And if you follow God's instructions to the letter, not just picking and choosing the ones that you like and don't like, but just faithfully following God and obeying his instructions, I promise that your life will go much, much better. Because if God knows everything, which he does, it is a very, very good idea to follow his instructions.
Okay, and we're back. So earlier we gave examples to help connect what we were going to be talking about. The Balaam story can be tied to the cookie example. Yah said that Balaam could go with them, but only if the men called him. But Balaam just rose up and went with them without them calling him. The cookie example was mom saying that you can have a cookie if you ask your dad and he says yes, but you go and eat the cookie without asking dad. This is what happens when you don't follow the instructions first time. It's better to obey than to sacrifice. So, what did we learn today? Today we learned when Yah makes a decision, he won't change, no matter what happens. Hebrews 13:8 says that Yah, Yeshua, Messiah, is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If this teaching blessed you, then subscribe to the channel. This is Children of Yah, signing out. Thank you for listening. Shalom.